Hi, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Changemakers of the Pandemic. My name is Manat Kaur, and I am an Ashoka Young Changemaker. I'm super excited to be here today with Edgar, who has been doing a lot of work helping Indigenous people have access to funds and money during the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you, Edgar, for being here. Can you start by giving me a brief overview of what you've been doing for the last couple of months?
Yeah, absolutely. So through my organization, Decolonizing Wealth Project, we have a fund called Liberated Capital. And as COVID-19 began to hit the US, I began to hear from nonprofit leaders and Native communities about sort of how it was, the pandemic was impacting them, especially initially our friends and partners in Seattle and New York and places like that. And so our fund immediately began to launch a COVID response effort that we call the Native American Community Response Fund, and just raising money and sending grant dollars to Native-led relief efforts. And the first part of the pandemic was in the cities where we were experiencing the most prevalence of COVID. And so we were working to raise money and support groups in all across the US and major cities. And then as the pandemic shifted to our tribal communities, most of you have probably heard about how it's been impacting in Navajo Nation and Hopi and across the Pueblos in New Mexico. We began to support also Native-led efforts in those communities.
That's awesome. And can you tell me a little bit about what inspired you to get involved?
Yeah, so, I am a Native American. I'm from the Lumbee tribe in North Carolina. And I do a lot of work in and around philanthropy. Most of my work could probably be summed up as sort of pushing donors and philanthropic institutions to invest more money in Black, Indigenous, and communities of color. A little fact there is that within the philanthropic sector, we have about $900 billion in philanthropic capital. This is charitable capital. And only about 8 to 8.5% of those dollars actually ever get invested in communities of color. So I do a lot of advocacy and activism around pushing philanthropic institutions to fund more. And so in this moment of crisis, I'm personally impacted. My family has been unemployed. My mother is a domestic worker. My brother works in a restaurant. They're in North Carolina. And I begin to see just people that I care about and know in tribal communities, I begin to see them impacted.
Right.
And as tribal communities, we have just a lot more at stake. When you think about small villages where only a few people are left that speak the language, we were at risk or have been at risk of losing entire nations. And so that really just lit a fire for me that I had to do something to support.
It's incredible how you stepped up. Can you talk a little bit about how you pivoted your organization, Decolonizing Wealth, to focus specifically on COVID and what that process was like?
Sure. So we had been raising money and making grants through Liberated Capital since last September when we launched. What we did in terms of with COVID, the really quick shift was a rapid response effort. I actually brought on a full-time staff person because we just had to move so quickly and there was a lot of work to do to get money out to people. And so we quickly just relied on our network of trusted partners, right? So as money started coming in and things really grew quickly, we had many foundations to come forward to want to support. We had a partnership with Lush Cosmetics, which really brought a lot of visibility to our work. So we just really relied on trust and on our network of partners to tell us, where does money need to go? We did not want to have nonprofits who were in crisis and our relatives on the front lines, responding to the crisis, have to jump through hoops to get money. The point of Liberated Capital is that we take money from donors, philanthropists, foundations. We call it untethered capital because we don't want to ourselves jump through hoops. We want to liberate this money back to community. And so we created a process that was very streamlined and easy to take in dollars and to quickly redistribute that money out to community partners across our network.
That's awesome. And what was the importance of collaboration and teamwork? You mentioned some partnerships as well.
Teamwork and collaboration is really, really critical. One, I heavily rely on the partnerships that I have across philanthropy because people in the sector know me and trust me and have followed my work. They were able to deploy capital to our organization pretty quickly. There were really large checks that were sent that were just, I didn't even have to talk to anyone or fill out a
Wow.
like a long application, And so those philanthropic partnerships are critical. The individuals who are members of Liberated Capital, we have a membership model where folks give monthly. Our membership really started increasing and those donors stepped up as well. So we rely on those relationships on the fundraising side of our work. But then to deploy the capital was absolutely done in partnership with folks that we're already in trust with in communities who can tell us, like, Edgar, these are the folks doing the work. These are the Native-led organizations that are stepping up that we need to support. And so I didn't have to do a landscape analysis or all these extra steps. We were really able to move resources in a way that is trust-based and is about relationship and reciprocity versus a transactional type of way of doing the work.
It's really cool to see how teamwork and collaboration really amplified your efforts. I'm curious, can you touch a little bit on the impact that you've had? So how much money have you donated? How many people has it reached?
Oh my God, so many. I'm so excited. I had no idea that this response effort would grow to the level that it has. We have raised in our COVID response fund right at $800,000. We are approaching $1 million there. And those are funds that will be deployed to Native-led nonprofits that are doing the work, who are providing food, who are helping to get water, who are providing PPE. We also help with those funds to seed some local mutual aid efforts that were underway. So that was a part of the work. The new development that we're actually, you get a sneak peek here because we're actually putting out a press release tomorrow. We are launching and really building out the first national direct cash assistance program to Native Americans who have been impacted by COVID. And so we will be deploying an additional $1 million in cash payments to 2,000 Native families in North Carolina, my home tribe, the Lumbee tribe, in Hopi, which is a reservation that's right in the middle of the Navajo Nation, where a lot of folks are unemployed because the majority of relatives there are artists, to relatives in Oklahoma and Alaska. So this is really exciting that we're able to deploy direct cash to individuals who have not benefited from other opportunities in the CARES Act and so forth and so on.
Wow, that is awesome. Like, that will be such a direct impact for those families. Can you also explain, what are the testimonials that you've been receiving from people and how does that make you feel?
It's, I have received just a lot of feedback and stories from folks. A little bit goes a long ways, and in our community, we culturally, we don't give to receive the praise, but people have been so grateful. And it's just been so rewarding to be able to use my superpower, which I think is fundraising and advocacy in this space to help my own community. It only takes a little bit of money for nonprofits in our communities to step up, to have what they need to do the work. So to see how everyone's been responding in this moment has been what has given me hope through this dark time, because the community has organized itself and we've taken care of each other, and the pride runs deep and the connection and relationship. So I'm trying to think of like a specific story to tell you. I mean, one that I love, not to show favoritism or anything, but working with partners in New Mexico who launched a a fund called the Matriarch Fund that is supporting Native women, small businesses. We have research that show that by far, Native women are the breadwinners in our communities, and they are entrepreneurial and amazing and so innovative. And so to be a part of
I love that.
effort to support that really is kind of special to me.
Absolutely. And what is the power of of community in a time like this?
It's everything. I mean, it's really all we have, when you think about what's really important in this moment. I think from the pandemic, we all had time to probably consider that, like, our people, our community is really the most important thing that we have to give us hope, to inspire us, to keep us grounded, to remember who we are, where we came from. That's why I do this work, and it's the most important thing. The most important thing.
And finally, what advice would you give to other people who want to make an impact during this time?
Everybody's got to do something, right? We are in a unprecedented moment with an awareness around racial justice issues, around issues of social justice. And so I advise folks to just lean into this moment. It's a little scary, probably for some people. The future feels very uncertain at this time, but do the work to lean in and understand what your privilege is, what your superpower is, how you can put that to work for the cause of justice, whether it's, give money to support, folks doing this work, folks doing the work of racial justice. That's a small part, but also just think about what you could be doing in your own family. It starts at home. It starts as a very individual, personal process. Read, listen to podcasts, have conversations with your friends. This is a time for us all to lean in and to do this important work of racial justice.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming and sharing your story and for all that you've done for the community during this time. It's absolutely incredible.
Thank you. I'm just trying to do my small part with everyone else. And I really appreciate you highlighting folks who are stepping up in this moment as an inspiration for all of us.